get the right one up. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Canada Immigration Live Q&A. I'm here with my co-host, Alicia Backman-Bahari. How are you doing this fine Wednesday morning in Alberta, Canada?
I am doing well, Mark. I think my favorite time of year is spring in Alberta when the skies are bluebird blue and we've got puffy white clouds and all the leaves are finally emerging and we've got the lilacs are starting to bloom, the apple blossoms are coming out, the birds are singing. It's really, really beautiful in Alberta in the spring when it's nice.
Yes. I know we have had an unbelievable amount of rain lately, and that has resulted in some very, very nice grass and green grass all over. The coulees, which are often very dry, the grass tends to be yellow, and through most of the summer, this is the beautiful time of year because all of the coulees, all of the river bottoms, they're all just beautiful, lush green, and it feels like we're in a much more humid climate with feels like we're more over in Vancouver, actually, is how it feels with the warmer temperatures. So very, very cool.
Yeah, we are
Indeed.
grateful for the rain because we're on a 4-year drought cycle and we were starting to get nasty forest fires already, and the rain has been really helping that situation. So it's good.
Actually, I'll show you guys. Hey, we're waiting for people to pile in because we're a little bit late getting started. So thanks for your patience, everyone. Alicia and I recorded a new podcast episode this morning that we're going to release right away. And it's on the real costs of immigrating to Canada. So we break down all of the extra costs that people don't talk about, as well as some of the soft costs, the actual impact on you and what it takes, the toll it has on you from a social and psychological and even your employment prospects and all these kinds of things. We touch on that in that podcast episode. So if you haven't subscribed to the Canadian Immigration Podcast, make sure that you head over to iTunes, just look it up on Google Play or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and subscribe and listen to that episode. It'll be a really good one, and we'll release that one right away. Alicia, I'm just gonna I remember that I took a picture and sent it to my kids that are down in. I'll show you here. I'll show you. This is my backyard, everyone. So I'm gonna pull up my picture that I just took this morning from my backyard. There it is. Okay, so you can see here. There, things are still coming to life. But if you look to the right in my shed, you can see. Well, one, I want to point out the grass is nice and green. But if you look on the right to my shed, you'll see that the wind in Lethbridge is very strong. So just a few days ago, the wind literally ripped the top cap tiles off of my little shed there. And so now I've got a little project because the rain comes straight in. But this is the fun that we have down here in southern Alberta. We have nice warm temperatures in the summer, but we get our Chinook wind that comes shooting by, and that little trampoline has experienced a tremendous amount of bouncing from my kids. And I remember when I bought that trampoline, I deliberately got one that was super tough, super strong, so that even when they were adults, they could get 6 or 7 of their adult friends jumping on that thing. And it has been really good, but it's super heavy. And then I have to drag it around the grass so that so that the grass doesn't die underneath it. And, boy, it sure was nice when I had my boys and all of my girls at home, because I just tell them to go move it. But now I have to do that. But anyways, so that's Alberta. So there you have it.
And I wanted just to jump into Mark because yes, we can definitely find the podcast if you search for it, but you can also go to our website. So Mark and I are both immigration lawyers and we are fully authorized to practice in Canada. And if you go to holtheimmigrationlaw.com and go to our website and take a look at the blog and resources, and that's where you can, so if you go up to the top navigation bar, you've got blog and resources, and that's where
1
you can
second.
find our podcast.
Coming back. Somehow I lost my I think I closed the browser window. Okay, we're back. It's all good.
So yes, blog and resources, that's the tab right up at the very top. It's a little bit, the words are a little bit cut off, but that's where you can find the podcast. That's where you can find our links to all of our YouTube videos. That's where you can find also our written articles that we have in there. So a good way to find what's going on, because one of the reasons that we wanted to do a podcast on the costs of immigration is because a lot of you may or may not know that as of April 30th, 2024, the government application fees have increased. So for permanent residents, so this is proof of funds, but the actual fees themselves, so the fee list for IRCC has actually increased. So now you can see in that little blue box on the right, for each applicant, each adult applicant, the combination of your processing fee plus your right of landing fee is now $1,525, which is up from about $200, and the cost for a dependent child is $260 instead of $230. So keep that in mind if you're going to be filing your application. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight here too is on the left there, if you happen to have taken a French TEF exam between December of last year and May 6, 2024, it's super important. If you've received an email from immigration saying, wait a minute, you had this transition time of different test results on your TEF, and you had used that to put into your express entry profile, you must go in and update your language test results section. Otherwise, you might not get an ITA if they do a round of invitations, or it might mess up your scores. And they say, if it's not any longer calculating your scores properly, you might have to decline an ITA, which would be awful. So pay attention to this, make sure that you see this. And if you did do a TEF exam between last December 2023 up until May 6, 2024, go in and update your profile. If you don't know how to update your profile, you can book a consult with us and we can walk you through how you update your profile. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And the other thing, of course, that just is happening as of 2 days ago, as of May 27th, 2024, is that immigration has said, hey, you're going to need to have a higher proof of settlement fund requirement. And so this is where they say, well, cost of living in Canada is higher. Inflation is changing things. And so make sure, again, that you go into your profile and you have updated your settlement funds. If you are eligible for express entry only because of federal skilled worker, or you want to make sure you could also qualify for federal skilled worker, and the proof of funds is the only thing holding you back, make sure you've checked what you have as your available liquid funds and go into that section, go into your express entry profile and update that to make sure that you're meeting at least this minimum amount. And of course, that has to be in your bank account and you have to be able to prove it.
And just a reminder as well, everyone, when you go to our website, Igor's done a great job of kind of revamping it. And like Alicia said, we've got our blog post, the podcast, our YouTube channel, but this and everything we do right now is sponsored by the Express Entry Accelerator and Masterclass. And so this course is designed to walk you A through Z through the whole express entry process, teaching you everything that you need to know to ensure that you're submitting it properly, that you're not making mistakes with your documents. And yes, there's a lot of information out there. IRCC provides some pretty basic information on what they're looking for, but often there's little nuances and little pitfalls and minefields that you just don't appreciate. And, Alicia and I were immigration lawyers for a reason, because notwithstanding everything that's free on the website, the government's saying you can do it yourself. There's a reason that we exist. And it's because there are so many different aspects that people are just not aware of. And unfortunately, most people come to us after things go south, after things go wrong. And the slightest little thing, the slightest omission can result in an application getting returned. And if it's express entry and your application gets returned, well, you're back into the pool. And there is no guarantee that you're going to get another invitation to apply. You may only have one chance. So the Express Entry Accelerator is designed to help you navigate your way through it. And every Wednesday bi-weekly, there's from 4 to 6 or however long we need to stay, I do a masterclass where I answer all of the specific questions or unique things that are maybe just, they're things that I can't answer in a live Q&A, in the way we're doing this right now. And so you can dive in deeper. And so you can access this on demand. Just go to the link and you can see everything. It's covered in detail, all of the different lessons. There's over 60 different lessons that walk you through every piece of the express entry process. So there's links below where you can check it out. And I'd encourage you to subscribe. And I'd also encourage you to slide over to our website and click on book a consult if you need any extra assistance. So we're here to help, teach, provide assistance, guidance. But at the end of the day, if you need legal assistance, you need help, and you're looking for representation, we're here and we can help, and you can learn all about what we do on our website and how we do it. So that's, we have lots of people that just say, I didn't know. I wish he would have told us. So Alicia and I are going to try to be a little bit more deliberate in explaining those things. All right, let's start off. We've got we'll definitely, if you have not told us where you're from and where you're tuning in from, etc., please, just post right now and let us know who's here. We'd love to see where you're located all over the world. And if we just pull up, we've got one super chat here. This is actually from Yari. And he says, hello, Mark and Alicia, the best immigration lawyer in YouTube. I took your classes and was very interesting. Thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. That was very kind of you to do a super chat to just let us know. So so happy. Actually, I just did a review with a client yesterday who had originally subscribed to the course and then decided, you know what, I just need a little bit of extra assistance. I've got some complicating issues, and I just need a little peace of mind and help in making sure it's done right. We do a lot of that. And then we do a lot for people who've made a mistake, got their application rejected, and then miraculously they get another ITA and they say, oh, I don't want to screw this up. And so, this is a part of immigration that, just absolutely love. Absolutely love. All right. Okay. Let's see who else we have tuning in here. It looks like everything has kind of changed too. It's interesting. As I pull this up, we've got a little R on these now, which is, I think, for Restream, which is where we're broadcasting this. So I guess they like to do their branding. All good. So Isabel, hello. It's good to have you here. We've got Casey who's tuning in, and we'll definitely get to your questions. We'll just do a few shout outs here. Spider-Man, as always, is in the house. Am I bringing some good news today? Well, Alicia, that's a nice lead in. All right. And the lead in is for something that I think everybody is asking. And it's this right here. Let me just go back here and I'm going to pull this up. I think everybody pretty much knows where I'm going. And it's right here. So these things, I think they were called rounds of invitations. It's been so long since I've seen them. I'm not even sure, do they exist anymore? So the question is, let's pull him up and you guys can ask him. Oh, he's covering Alicia. Let's bring him over here and give him some space. So this fine minister here, Minister Miller, this is the guy you need to ask. And I guess I could go on Twitter right now and tag him and say, Minister Miller, what the heck are you doing with your rounds of invitations? Because as we go back here, we can see April the 24th, which is over a month ago, was the last time they did it, and it was just a French language once again. So what the heck's going on here, Alicia, with these rounds of invitations? Are they building up for another massive, 27,233 invitations that happened February the 13th, 2021 for CEC? Is that what they're doing? They're just waiting, and then they're just going to do a massive draw, or something else at play here?
The truth is, we just don't know. We're not sure why they have Minister Miller is having a delay. We do know that Express Entry has overall targets for how many different applicants from different categories they want to have, and that's based on overall levels planning, and it's based on their projections for the year and the targeted draws. And so we know that under the targeted draws, we want certain percentages of people who are going to be in STEM, who are going to be in healthcare, people who are going to meet those Francophone requirements. And so overall, we know that that is the general proportion that immigration is aiming for, but the timing of everything matters. So the timing of when they do these draws is absolutely essential in terms of who gets an invitation to apply. And right now, it's honest to goodness hard to predict what's going on, because there had been fairly regular draws. We hadn't normally seen like 0 draws for over a month. So it's been a while. So it does cause me to question whether they are going to do something a little bit different. We've been hoping that there might be a CEC only draw. It's possible. They hadn't done one since September 14th of 2021. So
this is insane. Like I'm
we don't know.
actually so shocked, Alicia. I was surprised when I pulled this up just now that it truly has been since September
Oh
14th
yeah.
that they've done a
Yeah.
CEC only. And last
Mhm.
I checked, there was a few people who were currently in Canada on temporary status, hoping for opportunities to go forward.
So yeah, immigration knows. They know that there are a number of people who are sitting in Canada whose time is running out on work permits, whose postgrad work permits are about to expire, who are really facing tough decisions right now about what they're going to do. So we don't know what's going on with the rounds of invitations, but we expect that there will be something soon because it's been over a month.
Well, yes. And the big question of all, like I was hinting at earlier, is could we potentially see something that happened on February the 13th of 2021? I called them the Feb 13ers, 27,332. Basically at a 75, CRS score, every person that was in the pool with CEC was drawn, received an invitation to apply. And that was crazy time. And
Mhm.
so we still know that the annual levels plans are still at play here. So despite, Minister Miller, we don't know exactly what he's got planned. He was just dancing around there before. It's all about the show. He's dance, dance, dance. We need some substance now, my friend. We need some substance. What is going to happen? And so, yeah. So as far as good news, we don't really have any good news, Spider-Man, other than it's fun sometimes to speculate. And like Alicia said, when she was attending our national conference, the government acknowledged, yes, there are a lot of people here and maybe we should prioritize some of them. But I've been shocked, so shocked that over the last, almost, well, what are we at here? 2.5 years,
Mhm.
there's not been a draw,
Yeah.
a CEC only draw.
And this is why I say if you have deficiencies in your Express Entry profile right now is the time to go in and fix them like right away. Make sure that if you did your TEF and you need to update those scores, transmit that, submit that. If you haven't updated your settlement funds yet, make sure to go in, update, transmit that, because you don't want to miss out if they do happen to do a giant CEC draw, because just like Mark said, the bigger the draw, the more that's going to have an effect to depress the CRS required down lower and lower. If they just do another 2,000 or 5,000 people and they're doing a targeted or another general, if they do a general draw, those CRS points on 5,000 people on a CRS general draw is going to be really high, right? Like we were speculating last week, Mark, that it's probably going to be like at least 549, 550. And now it's been even longer since they've had a draw. So we're waiting to see, but be proactive, be smart, go make sure your profiles are squeaky clean and updated properly.
Absolutely. All right, let's just do a few more shout outs here. Um, let's just see here who we've got. Oh, Ori says, I super love your garden. You're very, thank you so much for that. That's our lawn. So there was a time when I did have a garden back there and, we grew all kinds of things, but as the kids got older and we ended up traveling around more, it was hard to maintain the garden. So the vegetable garden that we had back there, but that time passes and you move on to different things, different priorities. Okay, let's see
I'm going to
who
take
else.
pictures of my vegetable garden, Mark, as
Do
time
you
goes
can
on.
show us? Yes, that would be awesome. You can see what a real vegetable garden looks like. Indeed. Okay, let's do a few more shout outs. Andy, good to see you tuning in from Ottawa. Great to have you here. The Sock Spot says just saying hi to Mark and Alicia. Hope all is well. Thanks so much. Let's see what else. We've got Saishand is over in Toronto. Anna is tuning in from Edmonton. Good to have you with us, Anna. Gilbert is from Montreal live. Great. Goma is watching from Nigeria. Thanks, Goma, for tuning in. Let's see. We've got Alexis who is in Vancouver. And we have, let's see here. I think that might be the end of the line for shout outs. Yes. Oh, we've got Mitraj who is tuning in from Calgary, where Alicia is. So that's fantastic. Oh, and we've got Param who's saying hi from India. So good to have you guys all connected. All right, Alicia, let's dive in. Let's take some time now. Let's dive into some questions and just a few little things that I wanted to share with everyone. One is that we don't answer everyone's question just because you ask it. I try to select the questions that are going to be the most benefit for people that are watching. If you have very, very specific questions that relate just to you, how do I do this? What should I do? Then we'll always ring our little triangle and we'll encourage you to slide over here to our website. And at any stage within any of the pages, you just click on the right here, book a consultation, and it will take you right here. And very easily you can book a consult with Alicia, myself, Igor, and we can provide you with legal assistance that we can't provide through answering questions in a YouTube comment. So thank you so much for everyone and all of your support. And we do our very best because without your questions, we would have no live Q&A. So we're hoping that the questions we get will really be of benefit to as many people as possible, and especially all those that are watching live and all those that tune in after, which are thousands. So we're really, really grateful to be here to help. Okay, why don't we start with one of the elephants in the room? Casey says, any thoughts on when the Alberta Opportunity Stream will resume? Will there be changes in terms of targeted occupations for AOS? What do you think, Alicia? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and this touches on Ihor's question as well about AOS. And so this is something that people in Alberta are justifiably concerned about, because AOS, the Alberta Opportunity Stream, was one of the only streams that people can qualify for if their language is not hitting that CLB level 7, and if they don't otherwise qualify for express entry, because AOS is the only program, or the only main program, that is not express entry linked. And so people can qualify separately for it. Of course, that was shut down a few months ago. And so we don't know when AOS will reopen. I suspect it will not reopen for the rest of 2024. My honest to goodness gut feeling is that they have so many people in the queue that they are not going to open this again for 2024, because they just have too many people already with applications waiting to get processed. And they also need to give space to some of their express entry candidates. They also need to give space to their rural renewal category applicants. So I don't think AOS is going to open this year. I hope I'm wrong. But, and I think that when they do reopen it, I think they're going to make it a little bit harder. They're going to be more targeted in who they're trying to attract to that program.
Yeah. And if you look at this paragraph, always embedded, you guys, in these is kind of this hidden code. And so when you look at this paragraph, the AIP will be implementing measures to manage future application volumes against program priorities and to maintain reasonable service standards across the streams. So obviously there's only two things that can happen when you have way more people wanting to access a program like the Alberta Opportunity Stream and a limited number of spots. Well, the one is, if you don't suspend it, then processing times will continue to climb and climb and climb. And I think we can go here over to the processing times and inventory. And this is the same whether you're looking at Alberta, New Brunswick, BC, the principles all apply the same. We're just using Alberta just for an example. But if you go to the processing times here and we look at how long it's taking to process applications, you can see for the Alberta Opportunity Stream, it had climbed up to 7 months before they suspended it. So what are the two things that happen? If you don't suspend it, processing times are going to go up. So it has to be suspended. Otherwise, there just won't be an ability to process in a timely fashion, and people will be queued up waiting for years, which is not practical, especially when people need to maintain their temporary status for Alberta's program. Otherwise, they will not be able to get a nomination. In other words, your worker status, and be able to continue to demonstrate the ability to economically establish. So that's one factor. But the other reality is, which they've hinted at in their little explanation on the other page, they are absolutely going to make changes to this. Because if they don't, and you see a queue of 3,833 that was built up, to a processing time of October the 7th, and you look here to how many spaces, if they don't have any more numbers than what they have right here, Well, the Alberta Opportunity Stream only had 4,971 spots allocated to it. And so they've already been processing and they've continued to process, but the number of people that are backed up in the queue, they're updating these volumes, right? But this is the approximately in the queue. So this has changed, and this number is going down, you guys, because they're processing it. But we, until this gets down to a small number, we're not going to see this opened up. And 7 months basically means that they're going to continue processing throughout the bulk of the year. And at the end of this year, it's possible they could open this up. But remember, the Alberta Opportunity Stream itself is very open in terms of eligibility. You pretty much just need an employer-specific work permit or an open work permit on one of the approved list, like a postgrad who's studying who's working in an occupation related to their program of study in Alberta, or like a QET visa holder. They were on the list of approved people who could get through with an open work permit. Not postgrads from other provinces, not spousal open work permit holders, but individuals that were on employer-specific work permits, generally speaking, were the ones that were able to go through Alberta Opportunity Stream. But there was no loss of points per se for age, or even the language ability was really low. So it was really about flipping foreign workers in Alberta to PR. But there's so many now that there just isn't enough spots. So they have to make a decision. And if there's no increase in allocation here for the total number of certificates, then absolutely they're going to have to make some changes. And one of the questions was, is it going to be focused on targeted occupations? And that is absolutely something that they could do. They have streams through the express entry process, which we can see here already, that highlight sector priorities. So construction, agriculture, hospitality, tourism. And once again, every province has priorities. And if you're in a certain province, the best thing in the world you could do if you're looking to apply for permanent residence is to have jobs and be working in these types of occupations. Because if things happen, and for example, the Alberta Opportunity Stream becomes more strict in terms of who is eligible to apply, well, what's going to be the focus? It's going to be on the economic priorities for that particular province. So there are
And I'd
things
add
you
to
can
that the
do.
dedicated
Yes.
healthcare pathway too. So
Yeah.
they've
Oh,
hived that
absolutely.
out.
Yes. Yeah. Tech, healthcare. Yeah. Each of these individual ones are even more important because there's a dedicated program specifically for it. So yeah, these are all factors that are going to come into play. And I would think, from my perspective, Alicia, that we will see changes, because if they don't do it, Alicia, then when they open up the program, it is going to be a massive race to file, which I don't think is really what, the Alberta government has in store. And in fact, I don't think they really even have much of an ability to turn the tap off quick or to monitor, because in one day they would probably have their quota met. That's how crazy
And
it is right now.
that's what happened when they opened up the tourism stream, right? So people should understand that even though tourism is an in-demand sector,
Yeah.
they opened up that program and literally closed it within less than 48 hours because they had too many applicants within that very short period of time. And so it's a floodgates problem. And so they're trying to figure out, just like you said in that little comment, they're trying to figure out how to manage processing inventory volumes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see. We've got another super chat. This is from Icons. It says, okay, I think we got too many numbers there. Knock transport draw, 477 CRS. What are the odds of this in 2024? Under CEC and FSWP. Entered my profile last 2 weeks ago, yen. So basically, I think what yen is saying, what are the odds of there being another transport? And I think 477 maybe is yen's CRS score. And once again, this is kind of one of these ones, our friend. But if we look at the actual rounds of invitations, and let's just go back here, and I'll share my screen here and can maybe play around a little bit with this one. So one thing, when it comes to draws, we know that there are category-based draws, and I think all of you are pretty familiar with these realities right now. If we go back to the main round of invitations page, you can see that there are category-based draws, and within those category-based draws, there are certain industries. And we can see here French, health, science, trade, transport right here. And the trade, let's see. And so if we look at the question that was posed here, this individual is asking about transport, and 70020, I think is probably what it is, not 700. Which one? Can you look that up, Alicia? What is 70020? I don't know if it's truck driver or what it is. I don't know. But anyways, within each of these sectors, so if we look at the transport occupation, actually, maybe it's even on here. Let's see. Nope. Oh, there
Runway
it is. Okay, yeah,
manager, railway
managers and
manager.
transportation right there. Okay, so if you have experience and at least 6 months within the previous 3 years, then potentially you could be drawn under this. So if we look at the history of transport, and we go back and see, okay, well, what were the previous rounds of invitations for transport? So we'll go to the previous rounds and we can search this up. So we'll pull up transport here.
Do you want to share your screen again, Mark?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Alicia. Okay, so I just jumped over here and I very quickly looked and did a search for transport category draws. The last one was March 13th. 975 were issued. 430 was the CRS. 435, 435. So if you look at this and then we factor in the question from Icons here, it says 477, what are the odds in 2024 under CEC or Federal Skilled Worker Program? I think your odds are actually pretty good. So if you have a CRS score of 477 and we look historically at what the CRS scores were in previous rounds, you're well above that. So if you do have that 6 months of experience in that knock code that you've identified, then, I think realistically, Icons, you have a decent shot at it. And I suspect that they will, and they haven't said anything about changing the categories at this stage. They're going to keep them the same. Then I think there's likelihood that there is going to be another category-based draw for transport this year. So there we go. All right, let's dive in and let's get to a few other questions. Okay, let's address Manpreet here, which once again, we're going to hit the triangle because I see a lot of eyes here, Alicia. So Manpreet says, hello, sir. I got a refusal for a Canada visitor visa 6th time for a Red Seal welder exam. I filed my case very well, and I filed my case for judicial review. So how many months I need to wait for a decision? Okay, so Manpreet, you need to bloody well ask the lawyer that is filing your judicial review. They're the ones that should be answering that question for how long it's expected. It varies all over the map. One of the reasons is because sometimes the Department of Justice will look at the actual leave application and they'll say, yeah, Mark, I agree with this. And I think the officer made a mistake, and they will then send it back for reconsideration. But the processing times for judicial review, if you have to actually go to a hearing, can be very, very long. I don't know if, Alicia, you have any insight on how long it's taking to actually get to court with one of these, but it can be as much as a year or longer sometimes.
Well, and keep in mind too that a judicial review is not an appeal as of right. It's not. And so a judge has to believe that there's enough evidence from the way that your lawyer has filed the application to even allow the case to go forward. And if there isn't, then it's just going to get refused. And then you've got to go back and think about why you're getting refused in the first place. And 6 refusals, like alarm bells go off in my head about that. And if the reason is because you don't have your red seal, there's a whole world of having to make sure that you're going through the provincial certification bodies to try to get that red seal exam. And so we have no idea about what's going on in your personal circumstances, but it sounds like there's a few moving parts here that judicial review is not going to fix things for you. The best it can do, if they give you leave, you go to the court, and even if the judge agrees with you, they're not going to say, yes, you can come. They're going to say another officer can make a new decision. And so if the reason that you're not able to come on that visitor visa is because you're lacking the red seal in the first place, that may be something that you need to dig into. So.
All right, I'm going to pull this one up because I'm not exactly sure. Andrikia says, or Graham says, hello, Mark. I heard the government will be making a decision on 2 weeks on international students whose postgrads are expiring this year. Any idea how this may play out? So there's lots of speculation about this. And the history behind this, for those who are wondering why Graham's asking this question, is previous years, this minister right here, Minister Fraser, created programs that allowed for a new 18-month extension for individuals with postgrad work permits that were expiring. And so there's been a lot of discussion as to whether or not this minister right here, what he will do to assist any international students who are on postgrads that are expiring that do not yet have a pathway to PR. So as far as making a decision, one thing we do know is that repeatedly Minister Miller has said, not everybody will have an opportunity for PR and people will have to go home. He said that. So what could they do? Well, they could do what we talked about, some crazy massive CEC that targets postgrad work permit holders. They could do that. They could create some category specific option, or they could even create another TR to PR pathway program and announce this is what we're going to do to transition. But you guys have to understand one very important factor, and that is that the annual levels plans are the cap, the limit to what the government can do for creating PR options for people. And so, Alicia, maybe you can just touch on briefly this annual levels plans, and I'll pull them up and we'll just look at them because there's so much misinformation. The minister can't just wave his magic wand and say, I'm going to let in now 300,000 more permanent residents to accommodate for the million that are here right now looking for PR with postgrads expiring.
Mm-hmm. So what has happened is two things. Immigration has always had a levels plan for permanent residents, people who are coming here to become Canadian permanent residents. It's a separate category. The other thing that has happened is they have also created a brand new cap for the first time ever for temporary residents, people who are here on visitor visas, who are here on study permits, who are here on work permits. We have never had a cap on temporary residents up until now. This is a brand new thing. And so between these two things, immigration is really tightening the screws. They want to make sure that this ship is watertight. And so we've always had a federal cap on permanent residents and a levels plan. They are now saying we also want to have a cap and a plan on managing temporary residents, visitors, workers, students. So they are reducing the overall number of temporary residents who can stay here. So when people are asking, are they going to give me another freebie on a PGWP and an open extension on that? I think absolutely not.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Alicia. I agree 100%. And, because lots of people are asking, there's this feeling of an expectation that people have that there will be a pathway for permanent residence. And you see the people that are protesting, I was watching some news reports from PEI, I think, where the government says, no, we're not going to create, options for you. And the problem is that so many people have really planned their whole life on the ability to obtain permanent residence. They made the decision to come and study in Canada because they were told by their education agent or even the government of Canada itself that there is that international students are the prime immigrants that we want to see in Canada. But the problem was because there were no caps, they allowed in so many international students that there just simply is not room for them. And once again, I want to reiterate these targets. You can see for 2024 right here. And what we're looking at is this figure, federal high skilled. Generally speaking, this is one option. There are 110,770 spots that are targeted for these high skill. And what's the high skill? It's basically express entry, federal skilled worker, CEC, and federal skilled trade. So 110,770 here. They could go as high as 116, at least with the plans. But for 2024, that's the plan. So that's fine. But when we look at 2025, only marginal increase, okay? Another, roughly 7,000 here that they're adding. So 7,000 more to 117, and same thing for 2026. So there's no big massive jump in the levels plans. And the government can't ignore these levels plans and just magically allow a whole bunch more people in. When the TR to PR pathway program was created in 2021, it was because they were not going to hit this level. Because the borders were closed, they were not going to be able to land people to continue to meet their own targets that they had set for that year. So they created a TR to PR pathway to basically convert people that were already here into permanent residents. And that's how we resulted in that draw on February the 13th of that large number of people, 27,332 who received invitations to apply. So we don't see that happening. And if you go down here, we have the federal high skilled, and then the other category is, of course, the provincial nominees, which are sitting at 110. They will go up by 10,000 next year for 2025, and another, and the same hold for 2026. We know that Alberta didn't get an increase this year, but maybe next year they might get a little bit. Who knows? We don't know how they're going to allocate this. But the reality is, when you add this up, you guys, you can see 110 and 110. We've basically got 220,770 for this year for people to land in Canada. So back to the original question, do you think what this big decision is going to be? Well, Minister Miller here has already said that they're going to cap and they want to reduce by 1/3 the number of international students. But overall, temporary residents, they want to reduce the numbers. So I don't see any world where they're going to say, those who are already here, we're going to give you another work permit to continue staying. What they really want is people who are running out of options, who do not have a pathway to permanent residence. Either you transition to an LMIA-based work permit, which shows that you're not taking a job away from a Canadian or permanent resident, or you make the decision to go home. And it's hard because, like I said, there's so much misinformation out there. People are saying whatever they think you want to hear to get you to pay them money so that you can have a pathway to PR, which there is no guarantee. So one thing you'll get from Alicia and I, you guys, and I'll just slide over here and I'm going to get rid of my grass. Let me get rid of my grass so I can talk to you. One thing that I want you guys to understand is that not all of you will have a pathway to permanent residence. You have to be extremely strategic, but please be careful. When you're listening to someone who's telling you that you have this magical option, if you pay them $30,000, please be careful. Please be doubtful. Please be questioning and do your homework. If it sounds too good to be true, it often is. Watch some of the videos we've done in the past on the YouTube channel. I talk about, in some cases, people can increase their score actually by going home and getting at least 1 year of foreign work experience if you don't already have it. So there are pathways potentially forward that include returning. And also, I know your dream is of staying in Canada, but with your Canadian education, your Canadian experience, you never want to stay here illegally. You never want to work under the table. It will just destroy everything. No one wants to live that way. And so for many of you, if there is no pathway to PR, then the decision may be, and the best decision may be, to go home and not, use up all of your savings that you have here, but use it to help get reestablished in your home country. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but that's what you will get from Alicia and I, honesty. And then you can make the decisions as to how you feel best with proceeding. And yes, if you're wondering, is there any other options? Is there something I haven't considered? Yes, you can book a consult with Alicia and I. But we will be honest with you. And if we feel like you don't have options, we will tell you that. If we know of something or have different strategic advice, we will tell you. And if you have not yet watched our YouTube channel and the video we did on the future of immigration in Canada, I think Google probably, let's see if Google is smart enough to find it for us. Google tends to like what we do because Alicia and I put good content out there. Let's see. The future of immigration in Canada. I bet we can find the video here. Let's see. There it is. Thank you, Google. So if you go here, I'd recommend that you take a look at it. Well, you can ignore the ads. We can skip those. But in this video here, Alicia and I, we go in depth into some really important things to look at and consider when it comes to whether or not you're going to be able to stay in Canada. And we talk about some of the things that Minister Miller was addressing himself and what the intentions of the government were. And it all pointed to a reduction in the number of temporary residents in Canada. So you just have to be so strategic. And if you're already in Ontario, oh my goodness, you guys, it is going to be really tough. And if you're already in British Columbia and you've gone to school and you've worked and everything, oh, it's going to be tough. So We've talked about the golden age of Francophone immigration in there. We talk about the rise of rural immigration, and those are all factors that you guys should consider. But long answer to a fantastic question. I'm going to give Graham the question of the day, and because that's one that people are just living and dying by. Any hope.
And Mark,
Go ahead,
to
Alicia.
try to benefit as many students as possible. So keep in mind that those abilities to work more than the regular 20 hours per week all ended as of April 30th, 2024. So if you were on a study permit and you were trying to work while you were doing full-time studies, know that there's no change in the normal rules. And the normal rules are that full-time students who are at a DLI, who are authorized to work off campus, it'll say that on your work permit, you're only able to work a maximum of 20 hours per week during the regular school year, and only during regularly scheduled school breaks may you possibly work more. This is important because I see a question from Kairash who's saying, hey, I have what they thought was 4 years of Canadian work experience working as a TA or an RA doing their PhD, and they're getting 0 points. Well, why? Well, this is something that students really need to understand. If you are a full-time student, even if you're doing your PhD or your master's program, you cannot count any of that work that you're doing, even if it's high skilled. It doesn't count under the ministerial instructions for express entry. It does not count for Canadian work experience points unless you have completed your program of studies, you have obtained your completion letter from your university, your transcripts, your diploma or degree, and the day you submit your postgrad work permit, only then can you start accumulating Canadian high-skilled work experience that will count for points on express entry. And students may not understand this, and this is going to be really bad news for them, but it's important to know that. So Kairash, make sure that you book a consult and we can talk to you further.
Yes. And I also want to point out that many employers are not going to go out of their way to know 100% what the changing rules are for international students and their ability to work. So you guys have to take ownership over your own future. You have to know what the rules are. You have to know what your hours that you're working are, and that you don't put yourself in a position where you have worked without authorization because you've been working for too many hours. To this point, IRCC has been fairly willing to allow people to beg for forgiveness when they have unknowingly or innocently allowed themselves to work more hours than they're supposed to. And that's been fine. But in a world where they're telling you, including Minister Miller right here, we pull him up, that there's not going to be room for everybody, one of the ways that they will deal with that is less forgiveness for people that have shown non-compliance. And they're more apt to say, no, we're not approving your postgrad work permit because you've worked more hours. We've seen those refusals happen. They're starting to come more frequently. And the onus is on you to make sure that you're fully complying. So the days of a merciful, and I keep pulling up Minister Miller here because Minister Fraser was the champion of international students, and then he got transitioned, and Minister Miller has been, unfortunately, the bearer of bad news, the individual that's taken, the brunt of some of the challenges with the policies that were in place by the Liberal government. He's now trying to sort through the ramifications of some of those policies, and in many cases, they were made in such a way that they felt was really going to be beneficial for Canada. But very quickly, as a result of a number of different actors, programs like the International Student Program, even the resurgence and creation of these study permit mill schools, I guess if we call them, all to gain money, really put a tarnish on the system. And it takes time for government to make changes. It takes time for that big boulder to move when they have to change from one policy to another. And in that time period where they open things up to international students, express entry really encouraged people to go and study in Canada because you get those extra points. Well, they just were slow to react and realize, we need to put a cap on the number of temporary residents because they're not like previous years where many people would come and study and then go home. the overwhelming number wanted to obtain permanent residence and use the international student program as that pathway. And that's what Minister has talked about. So we're not saying anything new here at all. We really aren't. I also want to pull something up here, Alicia. Once again, this is an example, Spider-Man. He says, this is a tricky one. How to become out of status in Canada in order to become eligible for the upcoming pathway for non-status people in Canada to become PR. It's sad to have to ask this. Please, you guys, be careful. There's rumors all over the place that once again, and comments made by Minister Miller and his department talking about efforts that they're looking to make to try to create pathways for more people inside Canada. I'm sorry, like there are out of status programs for construction workers in Toronto, for instance. Is it possible that they could do something like that? Well, yeah, I guess they could, but you cannot ignore this. You can't ignore this, you guys. You can't ignore these numbers. They cannot allow in, they have on the high range here, it's pretty high. So the target 485, they could go up to as high as 532,500 this year and up to 550 as a high for 2025 and 2026. But no matter what program they create, it's not going to save everybody. It's not. And Spider-Man, you have worked so hard to try to find pathways. The last thing in the world you want to do is let yourself fall out of status so that you can become potentially eligible for a mysterious phantom program that has not yet been announced or released, that has only been speculated on. And I cannot tell you guys how many times I've spoken and met with the immigration department in my various executive capacities with the Canadian Bar Association, where we have proposed programs. They have said, that sounds really good. We're going to look into this. We're going to consider maybe implementing something like this. And then crickets, nothing. And even when they do these fancy announcements, it's often many, many months later. And there's always a slot. There's always, if you're in this range to this range, then you can be included in this. This is traditionally how they've done it. But no, under no circumstances, Spider-Man, no circumstances do you ever want to fall out of status on purpose to try to create a pathway. You don't. You're far, far too educated. You've got far too much experience. You've got far too many possibilities and opportunities, including learning French like you're studying right now. So do that. Don't fall out of status. All right. And I won't even dive into that rabbit hole. I won't do it. I won't do it. Okay. This is kind of funny. I'm going to pull up the SOC spot and then we'll hit a couple other super chats where, wow, the time flies. He says, flag polling worked for the spousal open work permit, Mark. That's great. Thank you for letting me know. The US side said, I need to chill though, because this was my 10th flag poll. So, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So I'm sorry, those 10 previous flag polls, sure, they didn't throw you in jail because you weren't seeking entry to the US. But what does your US immigration history say? In those whole 10 times you tried, was there ever a time where they said, oh, this person actually was seeking admission to the US and they didn't have the proper visa? And so they write you up, as being someone that was refused at the US border. Like, this is what we don't know. And having worked on the border, I did a presentation with LPEN, one of the legal professional education networks, on this exact topic, flag polling. And it is volatile. So I get why people do it, but boy, you have to be careful. And not something that Alicia and I push anyone to do. Okay, let's hit another super chat that I have not yet. Oh, there's a few. Let's see here. Okay, let's see if we can see what Marco has here. He says, okay, so the NDP head, Jagmeet Singh, wants undocumented migrants to stay. 5,000 plus Gaza families seek asylum. And PR for second-generation individuals. Are you concerned these changes will dilute Canadian citizenship? Marco, there isn't a chance in hell that those things are going to happen. The party needs to be elected. It's just like, Pierre Poilievre, who's making all these promises. Well, that's great. But until his party is actually elected, nothing is going to change. The party that's in power is the one that makes the decisions if they're a majority. Now, right now, the reason the Liberal government is able to make a lot of decisions that they do is because the NDP align with them and give them enough in the House to make decisions and move forward the policies that they feel are in the best interest of Canada. But looking at the ratings, there isn't any world I can see, any world where the NDP will ever become the party of the country. They may be part of a coalition kind of with the Liberal government or something else. I don't think I'd ever see them side with the Conservatives, but at the end of the day, this is all fine and this is all posturing. But yeah, can you imagine a world where it's just completely open to everything? But PR for second generation individuals, it's more citizenship for second generation individuals. And we, Igor has done a blog post on our website on that change, which does grant citizenship, but it's outside of the PR realm. And but yeah, all these different programs. No, I'm not concerned, Marco, about anything that Jagmeet Singh has to say about anything really. It's all about trying to appeal to a certain part of his constituency and his base, his support base. And I don't fault him. This is what the NDP they're the. Well, I'm not even going to try to define what the NDP are, but these are some of the things that they feel are important for their party. And if there were enough Canadians that believe that, then they would elect them. So we'll just see how this works out. And there's a reason why the Liberal Party has been in power for so long, because the policies that they have put forward have been accepted by the majority of Canadians, or enough to hold government. And that's how things work in Canada. That's the beautiful thing about Canada, is that elections, the majority of the people have the ability to dictate who their elected officials are, and then those officials, they trust that they'll make decisions that are in the best interest of the country. So, wow, that one's kind of off on a tangent there, Alicia. Okay, we've got one more here, and this is from Montana. Wonderful, great place. Okay, I was just down there in Missoula about a month ago, attending the Meat Eater Live event. Oh, I loved it. It was so much fun. For Ontario's healthcare category-based draw, Ontario, okay. Do personal support workers working in nursing home qualify for this draw? And what was the cutoff score? What pathway do you suggest for this job? Okay, so Montana, this is something that Alicia and I, we do not typically dive in deep in, obviously, this live Q&A. So we're not going to be able to address your questions in full here. This is a topic that probably would serve well for a standalone video. And I think Alicia and I, we can take a look at that and just talk. We do not do a lot of caregiver work in our firm. We don't. We're a small firm, and so we really target and we focus on specific aspects of the immigration process that are the best fit for us. But caregiver work, we don't do. We don't do hardly any, if any, of that type of work. So Alicia, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, in addition that, we can provide to Montana here, but it's not something that we traditionally dive into.
Yeah, so Montana, I'd say book a consult, because it's a matter of going through the OINP program, going through the program eligibility criteria, taking a look at what NOC is your NOC actually. Who is your employer? Are they willing to support you? Will they qualify under the Ontario requirements as an employer of support? There's a very similar program in BC that's doing healthcare category based, right? And so I've been helping clients in BC who are working in care facilities, and they only look at certain NOCs. And so it's really important that your employer and you are on the same page with respect to what is your NOC. And if they're not going to support the application, then that's something that you need to know up front as well. So there's a few things that you would need to double check here before, like, we can't give you advice. This is just for general information.
Exactly. All right. Okay. Don, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Don. He says, greetings from Nova Scotia. Very first time I catch you guys live. Can I have a birthday shout out? So we'll give happy birthday to Don. Okay. All right. Let's see. Maybe we'll just answer just one or two more questions. Okay, let's address a few express entry ones, and then we'll wrap up with that. VK asked a question that many people have, and we've answered a lot on our channel. Do you know if it affects the CEC PR application if I'm gone for 4 weeks in the year? regarding the sentence reasonable vacation period, any experiences. So Alicia, what do we typically advise people with respect to being outside of Canada? And what do we advise?
Yeah. So it looks like you're looking at the program delivery guidance on express entry and hours of work, and that's good because that's what they say. And so if you are not yet meeting that CEC eligibility of 1,560 hours, you can't count more than 30 hours in any given week, then there's a risk that IRCC can say, you got an ITA too early. So it's always safer to make sure you have those full 52 weeks inside Canada getting paid for that work. Will they accept some vacation periods if it's a reasonable vacation period? Yes. How long that is, it's going to depend on the officer. So most of the time, 1 week vacation, you're getting paid for it. That is probably fine. 2 weeks vacation, you're getting paid for it. So getting paid is key, right? If you're on 4 weeks and you're not getting paid, that's a problem. But the longer that period goes, the more risk it is that the officer says, I don't think you're hitting that 52 weeks, that 1 year. And in fact, you're not meeting your eligibility for CEC at all. And so it's always safer to make sure that you have the full 52 weeks or over 52 weeks. And especially when you're answering that questionnaire, when you're creating your express entry profile, you don't want to be in a position where you're saying yes before you've actually hit that 1 year, because there's a risk that they can say, well, it's your own fault, you misrepresented. So, it depends.
Yeah. Okay, we'll finish off with Kirash because he slid in a super chat. Man, you guys. Okay, Kirash, this is one that we also get a fair amount, and it's really quite simple, although people, they complicate it. So for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, I have 4 years of Canadian work experience. I noticed that my CRS human capital for Canadian work experience is 0. The question is, does IRCC count, teaching assistant, research assistant as experience while doing a PhD as of NOC 41201? And then he says, thank you, Alicia. It's in contrast with condition of the NOC. It's required to be enrolled. Employment requirements, enrollment in or completion of, and I think that's the key, completion of a university or college program is required. Well, ultimately, understand there's a difference between what the NOC requirements are to work in a certain position and the immigration requirements for claiming Canadian work experience. Do you want to finish off with that one, Alicia?
Yeah. So to claim Canadian work experience, you must have completed your studies. You can't be a full-time student. So the earliest that you can start to get credit towards Canadian full-time work experience is when you submit, the day you submit your postgrad work permit application. And that means you have to have already completed your program of studies. So IRCC will look at the lead statement of your NOC and they will look at the majority of the main duties, but they're not necessarily looking at the employment requirements. So that's important to keep in mind. And I'd have to see your question again, Kuresh, but were you also asking whether you could try to turn around and claim foreign work experience for your Canadian work experience? Because that's an interesting question. But if it's done in Canada for a Canadian employer, it seems to be a reach.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I was just, I think that's the question. Let's see here.
The prior one, I think he says for federal skilled worker programs. So
yeah, for FSW. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He says, for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, because obviously he's not getting any points for CEC because of that. And Canadian, like work experience in Canada, it's still in Canada. So I don't, there's not going to be any points. And you can't call that work experience foreign work experience because it was performed in Canada. Yeah. And I've seen some information circulars that IRCC has put out when they've gone to schools. And there is a little bit of confusion about it because they say you're still eligible for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, if you're a research assistant, whatever. But what they mean by that is that you're still eligible to apply through the program, not CEC, if you have foreign work experience. Right. And I could easily see how people, if they're just looking at the slide deck, and then this is the internet, this is, this is the social, the whole, a crowdsourcing of information, which we did. I did an episode. If you haven't watched that one on the YouTube channel, The Dangers of Crowdsourcing, absolutely go check that one out because it is, because there's some real dangers to following information that you find online that really isn't vetted. It could be old. It could be, misinterpreted. And so If you haven't, and most of you are watching on YouTube, go here and check that out. Let's see if I can even find it here. Yeah, right here, The Dangers of Crowdsourcing with Robert Leung. So, and there, we got our PNP battle for permanent residence. We've got a lot of really, really good topics. If you haven't gone to check those out, please do that, including Alicia and my, the future of immigration in Canada, and then the express entries, surprising strategies. So definitely check those out. And there will be another one, like I said, coming up on the real costs of immigration as well that you'll want to check out. So if you haven't subscribed, please do that. What do we got? Another super chat that slid in here. Oh my God. Okay, you
And
guys.
I'm just gonna
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a super fast one. Somebody was asking about how long are language tests valid for. So French tests specifically, they were asking. Go to the RCC webpage. It says how long your language tests are valid for. Test results must be less than 2 years old when you submit your EAPR. So that is the date that they are looking at on your language testing.
Okay, we'll wrap it up with Syed here. He says, does my work on the work permit count for my CEC experience? I've completed my bachelor's and 1-year work experience under Tier 1 STEM category in Ontario. Well, Syed, this is like, once again, we're clicking the triangle because you're asking, does it count? Oh, for me. Okay. And here's the finished part. He says co-op work permit, work hours as well. Okay. So it all comes down, Alicia. Yeah. Do you want to touch on this, Alicia?
So you can't claim co-op work permit hours towards CEC Canadian work experience. Okay, so if it is a co-op work permit, the only reason you're getting a co-op or internship work permit is because it's a condition of your program of studies that you have to do an internship, and that internship can be no more than 50% of your studies, and it must be a requirement of the program, but you are still under valid study permit status. Therefore, you are not eligible to claim an hour of that work experience while you're on an internship work permit. Once you have that notice of completion from your school, your transcripts, your degree, your diploma, and the day you've submitted your PGWP application, then you can start accumulating, but you have to pick the NOC. You've got to make sure it's a high skilled NOC. You've got to make sure that you are meeting the lead statement, the majority of the main duties, and that you can get that proof from your employer.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, right here off of the website, self-employment and work experience gained while you're a full-time student, even if you're on a co-op work permit, doesn't count. All right. Okay, you guys, that was quite the round here. Poor Igor and Prem are probably wondering where we are. We usually have our staff meeting right after this, and so we're always pushing in because you guys ask so many good questions, and we have a great group of people that are here. We wish we could answer all of them. We wish we could sit here, and maybe one day we'll go a little bit longer and try to hit on every question. But hopefully this was beneficial to you. Hopefully that you found the information useful. And if you like what we're offering, then please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let your friends know. Our sole purpose here with doing this is to educate, because there are so many people, we've talked about it before, out there that are looking to exploit, that are looking to take advantage of you. And if you have information, it's power. If you have knowledge, it's power. And even with the way we do our immigration support of our clients, we teach you everything that we need, everything that you need to know. We teach you everything that we know in the course of submitting your application, so that together we can ensure nothing is missed. And we do it collaboratively. It's a process that we love, and we hold up against any other process that anyone could ever do for supporting and filing applications on behalf of people. So go check that out at Holthe Immigration Law. You can easily book a consult. Once again, you just slide over to our firm website, Holthe Immigration Law, and then there's a book a consult button right here that will take you right here. And easy, super easy to book a consult. And they're super effective. We send an intake form in advance. We review your situation before we get on the call. And once that clock starts to run, we are adding value. We are giving you information. We're helping you, directing you. And many of you I know are out there just wondering, what does the future hold for me? Is there a chance? Many consults we do right now are people just like you who are wondering what options, if any, they have to stay permanently. And the one thing that we promise in that consult, that we will tell you honestly and provide you with the information you need to make an informed decision. We're not going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you the information that you really need to be able to make a decision. And that decision may be, okay, do I go home? And that's what we can promise. All right. Also, once again, as you can see, the sponsor of our lovely live Q&A is the Express Entry Accelerator. So if you've not yet subscribed to this, you're even considering Express Entry, this is the place to go. And if you click on the link below in the description of this, you'll see that there is a direct link to here where you can actually see where the course is. $347 US and just over 10 hours of video lessons, bi-weekly masterclasses. So every Wednesday, and you have access to this for life. If the government changes Express Entry and revamps it and there's a whole new process involved or new categories, guess what Mark does? Mark takes the time to re-record all of the videos. And I just did at the beginning of this year. That's why it's 2024. The whole thing was re-recorded, all the videos, and updated and modernized and whatever. This is, I think, the 5th rendition. And when you subscribe once, you have access for life, including to come back as many times as you want to the various master classes. All right. So that's it. And once again, subscribe to the podcast, check out the YouTube channel, book a consult with us. However we can help you, we're here to do that. Thanks, Alicia. Take care, everybody.